Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Kara Hoganson, a Senior Vice President with Principal Financial Group, and I'm incredibly excited about the time we're going to spend together this afternoon. As an organization, Principal is absolutely committed to small and medium-sized businesses. They are at the heart of our strategy. We have the opportunity to work with roughly 150,000 of these businesses across our retirement and insurance businesses. So on behalf of Principal, thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your support and the trust you place in us if you are a current customer. And thank you for joining us today and taking some time to hear from other business owners. We certainly hope you find value in the time that we spend together today. We are going to talk with 3 different business owners. We have heard regularly from business owners that we work with that they want to hear from others like them. It doesn't matter the size of the business, it doesn't matter what particular business they're in or what part of the country, but business owners want to hear from and learn from other business owners. So that's the intent of today. We want to spend the majority of our time today talking with our panelists, these 3 business owners, and then we'll have some Q&A. So we'll gain their insights. We're going to talk through lessons they've learned during the pandemic, how this experience is reshaping their strategies, and what their plans are for the next 3 to 6 months. I'm really happy to introduce our moderator for our event, Jean Marks, who is a columnist, author, and business owner. Jean owns the Marks Group, a 10-person firm that provides technology and consulting services to SMBs. Jean is a past columnist for the New York Times and the Washington Post, and he currently writes regularly for The Hill, the Philadelphia Inquirer, Forbes magazine, Entrepreneur magazine, and The Guardian. He's also written 5 books specifically on business management for small and medium-sized companies. You may have also seen him on MSNBC, Fox News, The John Batchelor Show, or heard him on SiriusXM's Wharton Business Channel, where he regularly talks about the financial, economic, and technology issues that affect business leaders today. I'm just, after reading through all of that and all that Jean has accomplished, we are honored to have him, and I'm questioning how he even found time in his schedule. So thank you in advance, Jean. Jean is going to be...
Thanks very much, Karen. I'm glad that I'm here. I'm glad to be joining, and we've got a great conversation that we're going to be having over the next 3 or 4 hours. I'm just kidding. It's not going to be 3 or 4 hours. It's going to be about an hour at the most. All about how some small business owners are recovering from the pandemic and some of the plans that we have going forward, what some of our issues are, some of our concerns, and the bottom line is we're trying to learn from each other. So Kara's introduction was great. First of all, I'm going to ask my fellow panelists, go ahead and switch your cameras on. We're going to get you introduced right now. So come on in and join me. And so just, yes, I do a lot of writing and a lot of things like that. But I also, I run a small business. I run a company right outside of Philadelphia. I've got 10 employees, about a dozen contractors. We're a technology management and a financial services firm. And so we've been trying to navigate our way around the pandemic over the past week. So it's really, I realize that it's me sort of having this discussion with you guys, but really it's 4 business owners on here, not just 3. And I've got some stuff I'm going to share about my business, but then I've also got some questions to ask our esteemed panelists as well. So let's get this rolling. Let's introduce the people that are on this call. First of all, I'm going to skip around a little bit. Brian, introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about where you are and what your company does, and who are you?
My name is Brian Snyder. I'm president and co-owner of Architectural Concrete Solutions. We're located in Columbus, Ohio, and we're a small company, about 20 men, and we specialize in decorative concrete in the commercial industry, and we got started out of the recession. So we've come out of these tough times before, and so we are hoping to be strong on the back end.
Yeah, I got it. Brian, did you start this company? Is it yours, or did you buy it? Or?
It is. I have 2 business partners. We started, like I said, out of the recession. We were part of a large firm. When the recession hit, they closed down the Columbus division. and we had the opportunity to create a home for about 20 guys, and that's how we started.
How long ago did you do that?
We started in 2010 in the summer.
And are you like, what did you do in a prior life? Are you like an engineering guy or a sales guy? Like, what's sort of your background?
No, my background's been in construction since a teenager.
Right.
Went to college for business finance and math, and minor in engineering and accounting, and found my way basically starting my own company again in the 90s. That I closed that doors in 2001. I had a special needs son born, and so I was needed a home, and so I serviced from there as a consultant, small construction, and helped other companies until I started this out of 2010.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder, like, you go to college and you learn all that stuff, and then really you go into the construction industry, and it's like it's barely anything that you've learned you're actually like applying in real life. You know, it's just I have a guy, like a friend of mine that's like he's a parent of a kid that my son's played soccer with, and he's like, you know, I would just give this kid startup money and not have him go to college because he wants to be in the construction business, you know, and you just kind of make those choices. But all right, well, I'm glad that you're here. And I've got a bunch of questions for you for sure. Lauren, I'm going to skip over to you and ask you a little bit about yourself. Before you get started, though, so is that Andy Warhol behind you? Whose picture is that? Looks like Bill Gates when he was 12.
I know. I'm actually at a friend's house, so this isn't my artwork.
So you don't even know who that is?
So I can't even tell you.
Okay. Just curious. Tell us about Sweet Lauren's.
Sure. So I have a company called Sweet Lauren's. I founded it several years ago, and we've been really a national brand for about the last 5 years. We're the #1 natural cookie dough in the U.S. And we really have a platform that's all about using clean ingredients and transforming what it means to be packaged food, and turning it, instead of, packaged food that's full of preservatives or doesn't taste that good, to food that's just convenient and very clean and really delicious. So our products are sold in over 10,000 supermarkets across the country, and you can also order online on our website.
That is amazing. So when you say your products, this is cookie dough. And it's organic, natural kind of. So I buy the cookie dough. It's already pre-made. I bring it home and I make cookies with it, right?
Yeah. So our first product line is cookie dough. We have 6 different flavors and products, and 4 of them, everything is edible. So all of our cookie dough is sold in the refrigerated dough section of a supermarket. You can all eat, it's all safe to eat raw, but you can also bake it. And so it's really fun and super delicious. It's also just made of very simple ingredients. It's also gluten-free, it's vegan, it's dairy-free, it's nut-free. So anyone who has a dietary restriction or certain lifestyle, they probably couldn't find anything in the supermarket before, really loves our product, because we make it possible to have like a healthier lifestyle, but also have really delicious food, enjoy really delicious food. And we built a platform so that we can move into more products in the future.
That is awesome. And we'll probably talk about that as well. So first of all, where do you were telling us before we got on here that you had recently moved from New York to LA. Where do you manufacture this stuff? Like, where is the business itself?
So I manufacture everything actually on the East Coast.
Okay.
I'm from New York, but I went to college out here. I went to USC for college, and right after I graduated, I got sick. I was actually diagnosed with cancer when I was young. Right after college, thankfully, I was cured, but it changed my life forever. And I started to really feel the effects of eating natural and clean foods. And that's how I got the idea to start my company. And so I started the company in New York, but LA was kind of always this second home for me. And so I'm out here right before the pandemic to this country is very big. So to be able to kind of have a headquarters here and offices in New York too. And so, we'll get there eventually, but right now we're running the company virtually, and everyone's doing a great job. And
that's great. That's great. How big a company then? Like, how many people?
So we have 10 employees.
Cool. And you manufacture all this stuff here in the US and on the East Coast, in the New York area.
Yes.
Right. Okay. That's awesome. Okay, cool. We'll be back to you shortly. Rich, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so Rich Cavanero, and I'm CEO of a water company called Adage Water Technologies. What we do is we primarily take contaminants out of drinking water or industrial processed water streams. Our claim to fame is we have more systems for the removal of arsenic than any other company in the world. Our business is global. And as a matter of fact, if you were to saw today on the news, there was some companies that got into some bad headlines today about having arsenic in their bottled water. So I'm sure we'll be getting some more phone calls.
So is this actual like filtration systems that you sell, and are your customers like public water, like utilities, or to companies that bottle water?
Yeah, many times we're working with municipalities, but we certainly have industrial companies, and food and beverage is a big part of our business as well. And we, remove more than just arsenic. We can primarily remove any contaminant that you're going to find in the drinking water. I have about 50 or so employees in the company. About half of them are engineers. I'm a chemist. So I'm sure my chemistry professor didn't want me to graduate from chemistry. He did everything he could to, keep me from that direction.
Right.
But I withstood his charges to get me into another career.
Are your products like filtration products and can consumers buy them, or is it really just like commercially sold B2B?
Yeah, most of it is all just big commercial systems. So
Right.
we rely on about 6 or 7 different treatment technologies. Those are things called reverse osmosis or coagulation and filtration and biological treatment technologies. We do have a product that is for arsenic that is sold to homeowners. So if a homeowner does have arsenic in their well water or from their municipal system, we certainly can provide help on that area too.
Okay, good. So Rich, listen, I mean, we've been, we're talking now, it's at the end of June, beginning of July. It's like, we've been going through everything with COVID and the pandemic over the past, 2 months. You're located in Atlanta. So, obviously all different parts of the company have had their issues. So what happened to you guys? Are you an essential business, or were you forced to shut down?
Yeah, so fortunately, because the business space that we're in of drinking water, we were allowed to stay open. So my manufacturing team was able to stay intact. My field service team was able to still go out and service sites and systems out there. But the rest of the company, we went remote. But I was very fortunate to be able to have my operations stay intact, and they would work through all this situation. In our space, our business is primarily always a lag. So our projects for our business, we have a pipeline, we have projects, we have to execute against them. So we won't really start feeling the full impact of COVID for about another 6 to 9 months, as the aspect of the work that we've been doing is already contracted to complete. We've been fortunate, though, that any of our projects, none of it has been hampered by any individuals coming down with COVID-19.
And you said that you don't think you'll feel it for another 6 to 9 months. I mean, well, I'd like to talk again about what's going on in the future, but you're forecasting now. So right now, have you seen a fall off in potential orders and potential work? So you kind of see it coming?
Yeah, it's pretty erratic. We see it's certainly all over the map. We've had 4 months since it's been, and we had 1 month that was 5% of forecast, and then we've had another month that was close to our full budget. So it's unpredictable. What's happening for us, it's a positive, is that while we see the irregularity in contracts being awarded, we are seeing our pipeline improve. So eventually, it means that projects will come out. It's just a matter of estimating the timing to get when we think those projects will come back to fruition.
I got it. Yeah, people ask me to be can I make predictions, and where do you think the economy's going? And I'm sorry, but any economist out there that's trying to predict where things are going to go, I mean, who knows right now? And so it's very tough to give sort of credence to those kinds of things. And if you're running a business, I don't know, I just kind of feel like in the 25 years I've been running my business, this is the most uncertain I've ever seen. People have had indications there might be a recession, but in the past, but now it's like, God, you don't know. For all we know, everything will be great in a few months, or for all we know, no. So it's tough. Lauren, in your case, so you're selling, cookie dough. So I cannot think of a more essential product when people are quarantined and staying at home. And unmute yourself. I'd like to hear, so your sales must have been through the roof. Everything was gangbusters in the past few months. You're going to tell me no, right?
Well, no, thankfully, our sales actually have been gangbusters and way higher than predicted this year because, as you said, people are baking more than ever. It's been really interesting. Sweet Lauren's, we're all about clean ingredients and staying healthy. So, we check off that box, but people also obviously feverishly were just buying packaged food off the shelf, when the pandemic really hit because everyone was scared, to have enough food at home and stay safe with their families. So, that happened, but also, I don't know if you've read, but baking has become, the new baseball. And so it's become, it's just amazing what baking can do. First and foremost, it's delicious, it's convenient, so it's easy for you to feed your family, entertain your kids. It's already mixed, so you don't have to make a mess in your kitchen. You literally open the package, they already come in portions. You put the cookie dough on a baking sheet or a toaster oven, it's done in 10 minutes, so anyone can do it. But it's also a stress reliever. It's reduced people's anxieties. It's brought joy to people's homes. It's a fun, creative project with kids. It's entertainment, so for all those reasons, we've gotten so many emails from people that have discovered our product for the first time because of, quarantine.
So, I was talking to somebody the other week who runs, not dissimilar to you, she runs a toffee company. They make toffee. And I asked her the same question, joking around, saying like, oh, you must have, had booming sales. She was like, no, because her supply chain was like specialty stores and especially, those kinds of food stores. And she's like, many of them got shut down during the quarantine. So like we couldn't sell it. So you said that you're selling like 10,000 stores around the country. But a lot of stores were shut down, and a lot of people were panic buying toilet paper and not, cookie dough. So how did that impact you?
So we always ship from our website as well. So you can go to fmiAgent.com and we can ship right to your door multiple times a week. So one, I think families felt very safe ordering online. They don't have to talk to anyone or touch anything. They can get it delivered to their home. Also, a lot of families are using Instacart. So, just going to the grocery store and having, it already picked for you or delivered to your home. So those have been very strong for us. But I would say that, our biggest customers are the biggest supermarkets in the US. They're not the specialty stores. So we're in all Publix, all Kroger supermarkets, Stop and Shop, Safeways, Whole Foods. Those supermarkets have stayed open. They're really feeding America. I mean, it's like them and Amazon that are keeping, families nourished during this time because your favorite restaurants or bakeries have probably been closed. So, so thankfully we're working with the big guys who, have built an infrastructure and are able to open safely, require masks, whatever it is to make people feel safe. So, really that's where we've leaned into. Most of our business is sold in supermarkets, but we also actually do have a food service business where we sell our cookie dough in bulk to cafes, restaurants, universities, and that part of the business has definitely decreased because, outlets have been closed, but retail has been up so much and e-commerce has been up so much that thankfully we have different revenue streams to pull from.
Before I move on to Brian, just a quick question. So were you classified as an essential business because you're in the food industry?
We are. We're an essential business because we're food, and thankfully our factory, which we wouldn't exist without our factory to make us, is considered an essential business, and that they did an excellent job taking care of their employees and putting up practices.
I'm going to get back to that. I'm going to get back because I think there's some lessons that you can share about that. But let me so Brian, let's switch on to you, and if I can ask you to you're unmuted. Thank you. So so design concrete, specialty concrete. You're involved in mostly commercial construction projects or residential.
We're about 90% commercial, 10% residential.
Didn't most of that stuff get shut down during the past, few months or not?
Not in Ohio. We were considered a part of the infrastructure. So all the construction works that was started continued on. However, there was a lot of money got pulled out of the construction industry. So which poses a void for everybody right now.
So this is good because I've got 3 people that I'm talking to now who really essentially operated during this pandemic. I mean, all 3 of you guys were essential businesses, and I've had other discussions with other people who were like shut down, especially retail and restaurant, and that's a whole other conversation about how they survived and cash flow and all that kind of stuff. So I asked a question, and Brian, I'm going to start with you. First of all, even though you were in operation as the time, did you apply for any government relief? Did you get paycheck protection? Did you get an economic injury disaster loan or anything like that? And Rich and Lauren, I'm going to ask you guys similar questions. Brian, did you? I did.
We filed and got the PPP,
Okay.
and so we've used it basically as a stopgap for us. Even though our industry has continued on, there's been a lot of holes in the industry right now in Ohio, especially Columbus area. There's been monies pulled for industry for projects and that kind of stuff. Some got kicked down the road, some got canceled. And so we go into the year trying to have about 2/3 of our year laid out, and we had that. And we found ourselves basically having to fill now a void because a lot of those projects got pushed to next year. So we are operating instead of a 6-month window looking ahead. We're literally looking month by month right now.
Right.
And so it's changed our whole strategy.
Which makes complete sense to me. And Rich, you have to be in a similar situation. I mean, did you apply for PPP or EIDL?
Yeah, we did as well. We did apply for it. And while, as I was mentioning earlier, that maybe our short term isn't as going to be as painful as many other businesses that have gone through horrible situations, our situation is coming up. So
yes.
One of the things that we've been doing is actually accelerating a lot of R&D and trying to quicken the pace of which we can bring products into the marketplace for where we think the future spending is likely to be in 21. And just strengthening our product line in a number of different areas. The water industry is a very slow moving industry. So we have to get data. We have to generate data, and the ability of spending on R&D and doing pilots in the field and gathering from different sites. That is part of what we think is going to help us as we make decisions going forward on momentum of finding new sales in new different areas.
It makes complete sense. And you're now, both of you two guys got just paycheck protection money. Did either of you apply for the economic injury disaster loans?
No.
Either of you did. Okay. And Lauren, you did not as well. Lauren, just, I might as well ask you, did you also get PPP money as well?
No. Yeah, we didn't need it. And, and I think it's really meant for companies that need it. And so, listen, we were unsure. I mean, if our factory closed, it would obviously so affect our business, yes. So we really considered it and kind of waited. And now, we feel like we have a lot more confidence that our factory is solid and that we can, handle the supply and demand that's happening. But yeah, I mean, none of us can predict the future. It is scary and it's uncertain. It's hard when you're reliant, on other people as well. But
yeah.
We felt like it's meant for businesses that really need it right now.
So it's funny how you define need, because I have a lot of clients, like, first of all, we applied for PPP. We're in the same boat as like you guys in the sense, I mean, again, my firm is a technology management, financial manager. I'm a CPA. So it's not like, we lost some projects, but I have this concern about the future as well. And I have a lot of clients that we were advising saying, listen, if you can, apply for the PPP and the EIDL, you might not need it this month. And remember, people started applying back in April when they're, very beginning. But I don't know, like the companies that I see that emerge from economic downturns are the ones that have cash reserves,
Absolutely.
And, yeah. And Lauren, like in your case, you seem like you'll be fine, but you don't know. And it's very uncertain. And it'd be nice to have the cash in the bank if that happens, right?
Agreed. I mean, I think it's always nice, but I think, I think at the beginning that was our reaction. It was, hey, like, even if we're doing well right now, we have no idea what the future is, and we have to, conserve cash right now so that no matter what happens in the future, we're okay. We don't have to lay anyone off. We can be protected. But there was a lot of backlash from a lot of bigger food companies that took the money.
Yes.
That they didn't necessarily need right now. So, and everyone returned it. And we just looked at that and said, if there's a precedent being set that like this money isn't just for safety net, this is really for companies, that really need it, then, and it wasn't so much money to us because we only have 10 employees. So it wasn't so much money that, it could so save us. Right. It was just kind of, it would have been a nice addition. We just, we looked at what kind of the industry standard was turning into and said, we're okay without it.
Fair enough.
But I
That's
hear
fair
you.
enough.
We
And I
definitely have had
understand that.
these conversations.
Yeah, again, I've just had different people saying like, I don't need it right now, but I might need it in the future, and I do want to have that safety net. I got to ask all of you guys as well, because all of you guys are any of you familiar? There's a portion in the CARES Act that provides these huge amount of forgiveness on the SBA's, the Small Business Administration Section 7A loans. Are you guys familiar with this? So kind of not. Brian, you're not even nodding, so I'm gonna talk to you because you're like just to give you an example. The as part of the CARES Act, if you close the SBA has these things called Section 7A loans, and they've been around for years. And if you've got less than 500 employees, which we all do, we can apply for one. And when you apply for that loan, you can use it for working capital, real estate, to buy another company, to buy equipment. They have different maturity periods. You get them through a bank. The bar is lowered because it's for small businesses, although you still have to provide collateral and some kind of cash flow information. But the bottom line is that if you borrow any money under these loans under the CARES Act now, and you get that deal done by September 27th, you get your first 6 months completely forgiven of principal and interest. So, like, Brian, I'm picking on you. If you borrow $500,000 to, I don't know, buy some equipment or buy a competitor or something, you would save like 33 grand on that. I mean, it's like a $33,000 discount on the loan, just because you don't have to pay it. So I was curious if you. So Brian, Rich, have you heard of that? I'm kind of curious.
So I closed on a multi-million-dollar SBA loan on February 23rd. And if you remember, that is about the day when the stock market took a big crash. So, you talk about timing.
Timing is everything, right? That's how you made your millions.
Or the worst timing. So I have actually been benefited from this situation, right? So I was going to move forward on that loan anyway. I had things in place that I was going, and it was the reasons to what I was executing to do on that work. So yeah, it was a nice little surprise that I was obviously never planning on, but the anxiety of going through the stock market on those 2 days and thinking that I'm just committing myself to such a big expenditure and then getting a benefit down the road here that I'm going to have 6 months is really, a nice personal situation that I'm fortunate to have landed in because of that situation. So yes, I'm fully aware of it.
Fair enough. All right, that's fair enough. Well, it's just another one of the ones. Then the last question I have when we talk about funding or financing is, this Main Street lending program is, and this is just an unofficial poll of all of us. Main Street lending program is about to go. It'll be live in early July, and it is a program where the Fed has made about more than $500 billion available to all of its banks, and we can borrow money. They're like 5-year loans at market rates of interest, but again, the bar is lowered. The minimum loan is $250,000, although that may change to $100,000. But it's just another resource, financing that's out there. Have any of you, Brian? I'm going to ask you first. Have you ever considered that? Do you think that's something that would even be on your radar screen, or is that not of interest to you?
Well, knowing on my business model is this: I'm very adverse to borrow money.
Okay.
As a company, I have not borrowed money in this company at all. We started out with a small line of credit. I still have that line of credit, but it's more on the books because some of my bigger customers, they require us. I have to show them basically my financials every year, and they require us to have a line of credit as a backup to our cash. This is my second business. The first business I ran was heavily leveraged. And when you have a major medical situation in your family, which I did, that leverage got me in a vulnerable position. So I swore I would never be in that position again. So this business runs, we are basically a cash-based total business. I move at the speed of cash. And so this PPP money was the first loan that I actually got. My CPA was very proud that I had it on my balance sheet. He just wanted to see it because we've never shown a loan.
Right. But the way it's going with the new terms, you're probably going to get most of it forgiven anyway. So it won't be a loan in the end, right?
No, it won't be. It should not be. But as government goes, things change, and until it's done, it's not done.
Okay, fair enough. Hey, let me change tack a little bit. Lauren, you were talking about how your manufacturing facility continued to run while you were, even when moving from from New York to LA, and while you're in the middle of this pandemic. So you've got workers coming to this facility in the middle of a pandemic, right? Where people are concerned and scared. Now, all of you guys were doing this while as essential businesses. Right now, the country, at least parts of the country, are reopening. So a lot of business owners are now going through the same issues that you've been going through over the past couple of months. So Lauren, I'm kind of starting with you. What advice do you have for those businesses that are getting back up and running now? What did you do during the past couple of months, and what kind of mistakes could we avoid? And I'm going to ask the same question of both Rich and you, Rich and Brian as well. But go ahead, Lauren.
Yeah, I would say number one, I mean, I think our factory was really good at this, is installing like as many safety protocols as possible from the beginning so that workers felt really safe. Because I think on the one hand, it's scary to go to work and be around other people and, in a closed room. But on the other hand, people want to work and are grateful that they have a job and they need to feed their family. And
right.
So the people working in our factory are very grateful they have a job, and we just want to keep everyone healthy and keep business going. So from the very beginning, our factory is probably one of the safest places. It's so sanitary. Your hands have to get washed at all times. Everyone's always wearing gloves, regardless of it being COVID times or not, and a mask. So that's happening all the time. There's more distancing between people. So I would just say, just make sure, your factory or whoever, wherever environment you are, those safe practices are just put in place from the very beginning to ensure safety. And then two, it's hard because we're in a virtual world. I used to physically go into our factory very often. And of course, physically, it's always great because you can be there in real time to make edits, tweaks, get ideas. But instead, because we're in this virtual world, we've just shifted to really great communication through Zoom calls and emails. And we're very much proactive and on top of everything. So maybe with our supply chain, for instance, we used to always have 1 or 2 backups. Now we have 3 or 4 backups of ingredients. So it's like we are just extra prepping each part of our business so that, right, God forbid something happens, we're extra prepared to make sure it doesn't upset business. And so that's taken a lot of time for me and our COO's time. And but it's actually really strengthened our relationship with our factory because we just have such great communication, and this is for both of us. Sweet Lawrence needs to stay in business and keep our sales are increasing, so stay in business and be able to handle increased demand. And of course, the factory is grateful that their clients are growing and that they can employ people and put jobs into the economy. So that would be my advice.
Have you had any employees that have refused to come to work because they didn't feel safe or they were nervous?
Well, what's ironic about all this is that I was moving. We had a bigger office in New York City in the financial district. And a couple months before COVID happened, we got out of our lease because I was moving to Los Angeles and opening up a new office here. And so the New York office was going to get smaller. So kind of just as quarantine happened, we were actually out of our lease basically already in New York. And so before quarantine really happened, I just told our team to work from home. In my head, it was only for a couple of weeks. But I said, guys, listen, it's New York City. You have to take the subway, you have to take trains. It's not like other places where you could be safer and in your own car and drive someplace. So I just said, let's be extra cautious. Everyone work from home for the next couple of weeks. Take your monitor home, take whatever you need. So everyone did that, assuming it would be a couple of weeks. Obviously, it's been months, but everyone has been working from home. I have personally bought anyone on the team who needs to set up a home office, so like a desk or a new monitor or whatever it is, because they're working from home, they're doing the best they can, and maybe they don't have enough room or office set up already. This is New York City too, apartments aren't huge. So and I have to say I'm really proud of the team because thankfully everyone's been healthy, but also mentally everyone has been so strong and positive. which has really helped the morale of the company, not letting like the anxiety of what's going on affect them. Everyone's just staying safe, staying busy, staying focused. And now, everyone likes working from home. They don't even want us to get a new office in the future. So maybe that's how we'll end up running the company, and just do kind of, twice a year, get everyone together, for a couple of days and do bonding that way. I'm open at this point. I just care about the safety of everyone.
Good. Rich, let me turn to you. I mean, same question. I mean, Lauren was just mentioning about, how a lot of people are working from home. I'm assuming besides yourself in your nice home, there's other people in your company that have been working from home as well, correct? How
Yes.
has that transition been?
So fortunately, I'll go back and answer that. Let me answer first one other point. I think that, one of the things in my company was we've had a tremendous company culture. It's about 20 years old as the company. And I think that, it's all about making sure we take care of each other as individuals and people. So I think my staff really understood when I was putting a heavy emphasis on our first priority with COVID-19 is to prioritize our health and our safety of our team.
Right.
So I think they all understood that, and they got that, even though I was probably aggressively forceful on implementing policy and procedures. They all knew that I had their best interest in mind, and of course, our customers' best interest at mind. If we were to get taken down, by a situation where COVID would have come into our company, it would have really, caused us tremendous harm to keep projects on schedule that we were being asked to be able to do. So we all understood the importance of being safe. So I've had, good cooperation from my team throughout this whole period of time. One of the things
but let me interrupt you for just a minute. When your employees are coming to work, I mean, it seems like you managed to avoid COVID in your company. Is that correct?
That is correct. And
which is, I think, lucky in the sense that, I mean, you don't know what people are doing once they leave your place, and what their prices are. So were you physically, are you checking temperatures? Are you requiring masks? Are you, what actual stuff are you doing in your place?
Yeah, we wear masks. We do temperature checks. We have a few questions that they have to answer when they log in the morning. So we do have those procedures in place. And so far, fingers crossed, we've been fortunate to avoid it. We've encouraged people to make sure that they have good mindfulness and awareness when they leave the office and not put themselves in situations that are going to, hurt themselves or hurt their family. And then
has anyone given you any pushback on the questions that you're asking, like, hey, you're violating my privacy, or you haven't had that situation?
No, and kind of like what Lauren was saying, everybody wants that paycheck, and they recognize the need to want to stay employed and receiving that. And, I've been very fortunate. I haven't had to do any salary reductions or furloughs or any harmful, situations of that at this point in time. So everybody understands the importance of it, and we've had good cooperation, throughout our whole team. So I'm happy, with that situation so far. But what I was really lucky about, and I was going to make this point, is that, again, sometimes you just get lucky on the situation, and the fact that I had moved a millennial to be in charge of my sales team at the beginning of the year. I had another millennial that I put in charge of my application engineering team, and then I had a third millennial that in the fall moved into responsibility of my project management group. So again, in the engineering community, it's not, you come to the office, you have blueprints. I'm sure Brian understands this as well. You have big drawings, layouts, you're marking them up and doing it. And that's generally how our business has been conducted for our whole time. But moving my millennials people into their management positions, we were able to transition so easily to a remote way of doing business. It really was quite remarkable and fascinating of how easy we migrated to being a remote workforce for my professional staff.
I want to add that over the years, I've had people, particularly my generation, they complain about the millennial generation, and it's that generation that has been pushing for more work from home, for more remote work, for more independence and flexibility. And frankly, it's our generation that's been resisting all of that because, we don't want to change. We don't, whatever, we feel whatever. And this, this situation has kind of proven the point of a lot of younger workers that, like, hey, the cloud does work. This technology can enable us to work from home. Rich, were you surprised by that?
To some extent, I can't believe how fast it was able to be transitioned to that kind of style of work
Right.
after years and years. I've spent my entire career going into an office, and the last 4 months, I haven't gone into the office. So it's quite remarkable to see how advanced it has all gone and how we're using these tools and marking things up and video conferences and learning how to do sales on these Zoom meetings. It really is just quite remarkable how quickly it has happened and how easily it's transitioned to that way.
Yeah, it is interesting, and you're not alone. A lot of clients of mine and myself. I mean, you're just used to doing things one way, and then you resist, and then you're like, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. And it's really changed the nature. We're going to talk about where you're going in the future, but this is going to change your company forever, I'm assuming. I mean, post-COVID, it'll have a long-term impact. Brian, what about you? I mean, first of all, how did you keep your workforce safe? I've got a multi-part question. Did any of your employees say, I'm not coming to work, I don't feel safe doing this? Did you have any issues like that? What advice can you share?
Yeah, I have a varying age of guys in the 20s to one of my senior management guys in the early 60s. And there's some skepticism about getting sick. My senior guy was worried. He's had health issues. And so we've had to basically do a lot of the things that Lauren and Rich have done, masks, sanitation, extra cleaning, basically telling the guys things they should know already. Wash your hands, don't touch your face. And we've changed over some of the drinking waters on the job sites and that kind of stuff. It's hard for us to make less change in construction because guys are elbow to elbow, especially pouring concrete. When you're pouring concrete, you're literally elbow to elbow the guy. And so to try to change practices is very difficult. So the masks, the gloves, those kind of things are important for us. But the big thing basically is just tell the guys, look, if it looks unsafe, don't do it. I've had guys basically that are concerned. So any guy that shows basically a slight illness or whatever, we sent them home, paid them for a couple of days, and seeing if it was just something that was a bug or whatever. We've had no illnesses in the company at all. We've had ancillaries, friends of friends or whatever we know of, but it hasn't touched us.
Are you doing the same type of procedures that, say, Rich and Lauren were doing? Are you, checking temperatures and requiring masks and all of that? We
are. We actually we want our guys to check before they even come in. And then our senior guys have a monitor that can touch the guys or not touch the guys on the foreheads. But being out in the sun, it's not always accurate as well. So the biggest thing basically is to check the symptoms that COVID gives and make sure that none of us are showing symptoms of that.
It's funny. One of the many things I've learned from this experience is I didn't even know there were like thermometers you could just put against your forehead and then instantly take your temperature. It was I'm putting stuff in my mouth if I have a fever or whatever, and it's just all these things that kind of came out saying, I didn't realize that technology was there. Speaking of technology, so Brian, I'll start with you, and Lauren and Rich, I'm going to ask you guys the same question, and then I want to talk about the future. But Brian, you do have some people working from home, I'm assuming, right? Some people from your office and whatnot.
No, you're looking at the office. It's me and I have a business partner in the office. That's it. And so my business partner does work from home more often, partly because his family's home, his kids are home. And so my kids are grown. And so I'm here every day. And so I'm making sure the facilities are clean, that there's management here, that there's a presence here for the guys if need be. But my life has not changed from my work perspective. However, I've had to step up and take care of the facilities more on a regular basis. Fair
enough. What technologies do you, or just one? And Rich and Lauren, I'll ask you the same question. I mean, you're working separately from your partner. You are coming in the office. Is there one application that you kind of rely on to run your business, or something that's pretty critical?
for us, just a laptop and cell phones.
Okay.
So we're pretty basic here.
No, that's fine. That's great. Rich, I'm going to turn to you. So although you're managers of a millennial age and millennial generation, and you're working from home, has there been any new technologies introduced or expanded within your company that you're like, wow, this stuff is really great?
There's a couple of software platforms that we have implemented during this period of time to help us on communication of project scheduling, because we had to go to, there's no longer a sheet that you can look up on the wall and see where the project is and in its history of being built. So we've had to have some software platforms that we've introduced for project management and project scheduling. So that certainly has been helpful. And I think the other thing that we've been working with a partner on is accelerating when we do startups out in the field, and a tool that we're working with a partner company, where we're going to be now being able to log in that information on the startup, and everybody's going to be able to see that more clearly, real time, what's happening, because we have so many people who are working remote. Now we have that information being shared almost real time. So two interesting developments that we're accelerating in this period of time.
Lauren, I'm going to switch to the future now. So as Kara said at the very beginning of this, Principal's latest survey was finding there was increasing optimism among small businesses. And I got to tell you, I have about a handful of metrics, lesser known metrics, that I like to watch to see how the economy is recovering. Like, for example, like TSA reports every day the number of travelers that are coming through the airports, which to me is an indication. Hotel occupancy, gasoline consumption. These are just little known, sort of behind the scenes. But small business confidence obviously is a big deal, right? So Lauren, I'm going to start with you first of all and say, are you confident moving forward? And how has this whole thing changing your business and your life personally? How do you see things going forward? And Rich and Brian, I'd like to get your perspective too. Go ahead, Lauren.
So I can't predict the future. I think that, it's like things. If you told me what has happened in the last 6 months, I would never believe it. So I think, all we can do is say none of us can project the future, but what can we do to ensure, as much conservative nature or safety net. So, God forbid, for whatever reasons, we'll be safe during that time. So I thankfully, our product has done really well now. But what has been interesting and what is definitely shifted during this time, one is complete remote working. So for us, getting just better at communication has to be even more proactive and clear. You have to really be on top of deadlines and timelines. And I'm a big proponent of whatever software can work for you. So we signed to us on Asana, just to kind of, so many details everyone's working on to make sure nothing falls through the cracks, because you're not sitting next to, your teammate anymore to double check things. So I would say just kind of getting more tech savvy, getting really good with communication, so things don't fall through the cracks. And then for us, we've just been, I think the way that we feel very confident that we will win and we will stay on top and be nimble during these uncertain times, no matter where it turns, is really to read a lot about the marketplace and see where things are turning. So for instance, as we talk about innovation, we as a company could work on many different types of products, but where we see the world going is more snacking. It's more single serve. People want, it to feel cleaner, safer, less employees handling the food. So all those things, as we hear about the way that Starbucks is reopening or universities are reopening or schools, how do our products and innovation fit in with this new world? So that we're maybe not stuck with what was originally planned, but we're able to be nimble and think about what really could fit for the future.
Has this changed your supply chain at all? A lot of companies, well, you said to me before that you were selling stuff online, but you still don't see it affecting where you're getting your supplies and your channel that you're selling products out to.
No, if anything, I mean, I think the good news, supermarkets are our main business. So the good news is during this time, stores like Publix or Target have actually taken in more products of ours or increased their distribution in more stores. So, some companies are able to expand and, kind of grow during this time. There are other retailers where, there's no more in-person meetings for the rest of the year, which is very unusual in our world. Our sales go every week. So, so I think, it's just kind of, it's managing with what the world is kind of giving us and doing everything we can to send samples, so people can try the product, even if it's not in person. We're doing video calls instead of in person. And thankfully, it's proving that we can get the job done this way. And so that's awesome, because to me, me even moving to California was going to create a virtual atmosphere anyway, because we have an East Coast office.
Yeah.
So no matter what, I felt a certain guilt or stress of how do I connect both offices in different time zones. But the truth is, this has made us move there, whether I was living in New York or not. We're a virtual company at this point, and I really think it's actually giving people a lot more freedom and less stress, that more of their time back. They're not commuting, and people are spending more time with their families, which I think can be a really good thing too. So, I'm trying to find all the positives in this versus, leaning into the negatives, because that doesn't help anyone.
No, I hear you. Brian, what about you? I mean, what are, we've had some questions that were submitted in advance, and a couple of them have to do with this. What are the opportunities you see, Brian? How can you even plan 3 to 6 months out? So how can you do that? Is it, what are you
really
trying
can't.
to do?
You really can't. I mean, basically, we're looking at what's bidding out there for construction. I'm in an industry basically that if there's no construction, obviously we don't work. And so for us, basically, I've learned, it's reaffirming to me that cash is king. Yeah, I need cash at all times. And so this time, whether it's an economic downturn caused by a pandemic or whether it's an economic downturn caused by true economies, cash is king. For us, though, it's caused us to be more efficient. We need to be more efficient. We need efficiency. We need to be managing our resources well, whether that be monies or employees or whatever, that allows for us to take advantage of those opportunities. Sad to say, but there's going to be some competition of mine that go out of business. And so I look at this basically that we need to prepare ourselves when we finally break out and are fully going, that some of my competition are not going to be there. And so my hope is to create a home or have a home for these guys to come to. It may be an ability for us to expand as a company when this is all said and done. Now that's
don't feel guilty about saying that. It really is like survival of the fittest, isn't it?
It is, but I've really struggled with the fact that small businesses really taking a beating, and some people just won't survive. And I get it. Some of it's self-inflicted, and some of it's governmental shutdown.
Yeah.
Maybe they never were going to make it long term anyway. But
Right.
I just feel for the small man, the small person that basically spent their whole life preparing to open business up, and then this hits, or they were getting ready to retire, and then this hit. So it's just where my heart goes.
It's fair enough. But knowing what you just said, Lauren talks about relying on technology and being innovative, to prepare for the future. And Brian, your attitude, I mean, listen, I'm an accountant, so we've been telling our clients for years you should have at least 6 months of cash on hand. And some clients listened and some clients didn't. And the ones you listened, they're the ones that are navigating their way through this. And when they emerge, there are some opportunities out there. It's not just people going out of business, but it's a big disruption in the labor market. To find, it's only a few months ago, our biggest problem is finding good people. And now, there's some opportunities to do that. Rich, another question, and this will be our final question, but another question was submitted about sort of looking ahead and sort of like, a second wave or, whatever. And I'm not going to ask you whether or not you think there's going to be a second wave because nobody knows if, what the fact is, but what are you doing to prepare for the worst? Like, do you guys have a disaster plan? Did you ever have one? Has this has this motivated you to like readdress the whole disaster plan thing? You know, these people telling you to do this for years, and now you're like, oh my God, those guys are really right. Are you prepared for a second wave?
So I know your audience won't be able to see this, but it's titled "Sometimes Worrying is Good." Okay?
We saw it.
And
Yep.
you know, I like to plan, and I'm a person that likes to think things through, and I like to make sure that you know, we understand what, even though the best laid plans, you know, you're still, you know, going to have to deviate from that. But if you have a plan, at least you know what to do, and you can prepare for when you need to make moves. I think one of the things that we've done a couple of things pretty aggressively. One, you know, our industry is very heavily on face-to-face and knocking on the door and going to trade shows and getting articles in trade journals and digital media. So we recognize that there's an abrupt turn that's happening with trade shows in our industry, for instance. We have aggressively gone after, you know, platforms of digital media platforms and putting content out there that is meaningful for people to see when they're sitting at home and getting access to information differently than relying on trade shows. So that has been certainly a purposeful intention that we've gone after, has changed our whole marketing and sales and marketing approach around pretty aggressively. I think the other thing that we've done, obviously, besides like what Brian said, is, you know, making yourself operationally efficient. You know, we've recognized that the markets are going to become probably a tad more competitive on projects. And we have got to recognize that where we can take cost out of our business and where we can become operationally much more efficient, we need to be accelerating those goals that maybe we said, hey, we're going to do this in June, or we're going to get there in October. You know, so lean manufacturing and Kaizen principles and that nature, we've accelerated all those programs internally in the company during this period of time, so we can become much more cost efficient in how we're producing our systems. And then the other thing that I think we've done a very nice job on is that we have a lot of products that we can sell into other industries. And we've, you know, for whatever reason, you know, we're so busy with our current workload that we've never recognized that, you know, some products can be standalone items and can be sold into other areas. And we've forced ourselves to create some and launch some new products during this period of time of, you know, simple things like we do CO2 removal, and, you know, usually they're attached to our skids. But now we're selling you know, carbon dioxide system as a standalone system to adjust pH. So we've done that, where we've unbundled some products off of our existing systems and just are now introducing them as standalone items. And the other point that I mentioned earlier was spending on R&D, where we think the future is going to be. Why we can't predict the future.
Sure.
Well, maybe we can control it by understanding the water industry isn't going away. The needs of water technology is going to exist. And if we can continue to emphasize and bring new innovations into the marketplace with the ideas, that's how we relied on as a company to do that. That's where we're spending our dollars. And if I want to make one other point, if
Please.
I want to look at where I think an industry trend is going, and I've already mentioned it a little bit, is, you know, smart digital technologies are going to become ever more present. You know, a technology piece, whether it's a software platform or reading digital medias on our systems, that's going to accelerate a lot faster, because with this COVID situation, you know, getting operators to go travel to job sites, if we can look at something digitally before they need to go out to remote sites, that's going to be, you know, way technology is going to advance as well. And that will happen at a much faster pace than a technology, say, to remove arsenic out of the drinking water. So I do see that smart technologies in our systems are going to be a lot of novel things are going to come out of this.
It's like necessity is the mother of invention, you know, and people are turning to technology that they wouldn't have considered before because it just makes sense. Like you said, trade shows, you know, you got to find a way to get the content out there. And then I also just find all of what you guys said. I mean, people are just, they're readdressing their infrastructures, cutting down their overhead, keeping their best employees happy as well. But then also innovating, you know, and saying, you know what, we weren't trying to sell this before, but now, you know, this is something that we can make some money off of, and I don't know, just think things in a different way. Guys, thank you. This is a great conversation. The hour went very, very fast, and I really appreciate it. Before I turn it over to Kara to jump in and we turn off our videos, don't turn them off yet. I want to thank you, but at least I know it's maybe premature to say this, but I think we can all be happy, and I think the three of you guys represent a lot of business owners in this country that have been able to navigate around what has been like a serious economic downturn, one that years from now will be looked at as sort of unprecedented. And if you come out of it, the best and the brightest business owners are the ones that successfully do this kind of stuff. And so I know sometimes the days are hard, or sometimes you don't think things are going that well or whatever, but you really got to take a step back and look at what you've done so far, and it's just really impressive. So for whatever it's worth, congratulations so far, and I hope you guys continue to do what you're doing. So
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Kara, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I guess the rest of us as panelists are going to turn off our videos and then let you, Kara, take it up from there. So I'm going to turn off my video right now.
Great, thank you. And I believe my video should be loading at this point in time. So Jean, thank you for facilitating that great conversation. Thank you, Brian, Lauren, and Rich, for sharing your perspectives. Wow. Clearly three diverse businesses, but all are taking incredible care of your employees. And I kept finding myself thinking about how flexible and adaptable and resilient you are. And the discussion around millennials having maybe previously pushed some of us to do things differently, and how that nudging that they did is truly paying off. And like Jean said, just kudos to you for your success and how you're thinking about evolving your businesses, unpackaging products in different ways, and thinking about trends that'll be accelerated that you can take advantage of, like snacking, and offering your product in different ways to be easier to access. So that's just fantastic. Jean, you briefly mentioned the well-being index that Principal publishes, and we did just publish our most recent edition of that. And I think what we heard today from these three fantastic companies is exactly what we're seeing in the results that we just generated. We are seeing that companies are finding ways to survive and even thrive in these challenging times. More than half said that their financial health was stable, and a third were in growth mode. It was only about 15% that said that they were concerned about declining financial health or struggling to stay afloat. And optimism, and that came through so loud and clear in today's discussion. 40% of respondents in this survey that we just conducted were optimistic about the economic outlook for the next 12 months. And well over 60% of small businesses think that they'll recover in the next year. So there's a lot of reason for us to be optimistic. As employers of all sizes across the country continue to look for support and guidance, Principal is committed to continuing not only these research efforts, but providing tools and resources that can be most helpful. On the screen, you're seeing a website address, so Principal.com, employers / navigating business now. And that really is where we have a bunch of different tools and resources we've developed. Things like an expense tracker for those businesses that have taken out a payroll protection program loan and want to make sure that they have all the documentation they need for loan forgiveness. We have a spreadsheet out there that they can take advantage of. Or for those businesses that haven't yet reopened but are going to, maybe a roadmap, if you will, on potential approaches to reopening their business to keep employees and customers safe. We have tools along those lines as well. So we are going to wrap up our time together at this point. There will be a really quick satisfaction survey that will immediately follow this webinar. It's really an opportunity for you as attendees to provide input on what you found valuable and provide us any feedback or questions that you may have. That will be really important to us to plan for future events. Thank you for taking the time to attend today. And with that, we will conclude today's event.